Welcome to the Deep Dive. Looks like we're diving deep into Carl Jung this time. You've sent us a ton of material, so you're clearly ready to explore the human psyche. Ready for an adventure.
Absolutely. Jung is endlessly fascinating. His life and work are just so intertwined.
Yeah, that's what makes this so interesting. It's not just like textbook psychology. We're talking real-life experiences.
Right.
Okay, so Carl Jung, born 1875, Switzerland. But his childhood wasn't exactly normal, was it?
Not at all. Imagine family dinners with stories about spirits and visions, His mother was very spiritual. These early experiences, I think they really shaped how he saw the world. It sparked that fascination with the unconscious.
The unconscious, that hidden part of ourselves.
Right, exactly. The part that influences us even when we don't realize it.
So not your average childhood.
Yeah.
Did this have an impact on his later work with things like dreams and symbolism?
Oh, absolutely. It really set the stage for his lifelong exploration of the psyche. But things took a pretty dramatic turn. When he was just 12, he started having these panic attacks, fainting spells, really severe.
Wow.
Yeah, so bad he couldn't even go to school.
That must have been terrifying at that age.
It was a real crisis. But Jung, even as a young boy, he had this sense of curiosity about it, like it was a challenge. He started analyzing his own experiences, kind of delving into that inner world to understand what was going on.
So he used that struggle,
Yeah.
turned it into self-discovery.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings us to his relationship with Sigmund Freud.
Yeah.
You can't talk about Jung without talking about Freud, right?
Exactly. And their relationship is really key to understanding how Jung developed his ideas. Initially, it was like this meeting of the minds. They collaborated, shared ideas, huge amount of respect there. But as Jung went deeper into his own research, he started questioning some of Freud's core ideas, especially, that emphasis on sexuality.
Like the main driver of human behavior.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. It must have been a pretty bold move going against someone as influential as Freud.
It was. It took real courage. But for Jung, he felt there was just more to the human psyche than just repressed desires.
More to the puzzle.
Yes. He was interested in symbolism, spirituality, the bigger picture,
So what were some of the core disagreements that led to their split?
Well, a big one was this concept of the unconscious. Freud saw it as mostly personal, filled with repressed memories and desires. But Jung, he envisioned something much, much bigger, something he called the collective unconscious.
Okay, the collective unconscious. I've heard that term before, but it's always been a bit mysterious to me.
Yeah, it's a big one. Think of it like this. A vast well of shared human experiences. Images, archetypes that we all inherit, no matter what our culture is or how we were raised. It's the idea that we're all connected to something much larger than ourselves, like a universal library of human experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Jung is suggesting that, there are universal patterns and symbols that show up across cultures, across time periods.
Exactly. Think about the hero's journey or the wise old man archetype. These appear in cultures all over the world, which suggests that there's this shared wellspring of human experience. And that's what fascinated Jung. It led him to develop his theory of archetypes as these universal inborn patterns in all of us.
So not just our personal experiences, but this shared reservoir of human experience influencing us all. I'm starting to see why he broke with Freud.
It was a huge turning point, and breaking with Freud sent Jung into this period of really intense inner turmoil. He faced his own struggles, wrestled with visions, dreams.
It sounds like a really dark period for him.
It was. Some even call it his dark night of the soul. But Jung, he really believed that facing these inner struggles, what he called the shadow aspects of himself, that was essential to his growth. And this period of introspection, it led to some of his most groundbreaking ideas, like the concept of the shadow self.
The shadow self. Okay, now that's one that really resonates in popular culture.
Right.
Tell me more about that.
It's a complex idea. It's not about being evil. It's more about the parts of ourselves that we find unacceptable. The parts we repress, hide from the world, and sometimes even from ourselves.
The parts we don't like to admit we have.
Exactly. It could be anger, jealousy, selfishness, even those wild impulses we try to keep hidden. Jung argued that we need to acknowledge this shadow, integrate it, not just pretend it's not there.
Okay, so how do we even start to do that? That sounds kind of daunting.
It's a process. But self-awareness is key, start paying attention to those thoughts and feelings, those behaviors that we tend to judge or push away.
So it's about bringing those hidden parts into the light.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that be I don't know, kind of unsettling. I mean, some of those shadow impulses might not be, very pretty.
It can be challenging, definitely. But Jung believed that integrating our shadow, instead of suppressing it, that's essential for becoming a whole person, It's about accepting all parts of ourselves, the light and the dark.
So not about like erasing those darker impulses, but more about understanding them.
Precisely. And finding healthy ways to express them. Jung actually saw the shadow as a source of energy and even creativity. When we deny it, it can manifest in unhealthy ways, but when we acknowledge it, when we integrate it, it can actually become a source of strength, even inspiration.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. It's like those negative traits, they can actually be valuable.
Yeah, it's about finding that balance. Jung believed that the goal of life, what he called individuation, is to become this fully realized individual, integrating all aspects of ourselves. And that includes those shadow parts we tend to shy away from.
Individuation.
Yeah.
Okay, another one of those big Jungian concepts.
Right.
Break that down for me.
Think of it as a lifelong journey of self-discovery, growth. It's about becoming aware of our patterns, both conscious and unconscious, integrating our shadow, and ultimately moving towards a state of wholeness, balance.
So not about striving for perfection, but more about accepting all those messy, complex parts of ourselves.
Exactly. And remember, Jung believed that this journey of individuation, it's also about connecting to something bigger than ourselves. He saw the individual psyche as like a microcosm of the collective unconscious, that shared wellspring of human experience we were talking about earlier.
Okay, I'm seeing how these pieces fit together now. Our personal journey is connected to this larger universal experience. Wow, that's pretty profound.
It is, and it brings us back to Jung's fascination with dreams. He saw them as this direct line to the unconscious, a way for the psyche to communicate with us through symbols and metaphors.
We were talking about dreams earlier. So for Jung, they weren't just random, firings of neurons. They were actual messages.
Exactly. He believed they offer these valuable insights into our unconscious patterns. Fears, desires, even glimpses into that collective unconscious. It's like getting a telegram from our deepest selves.
Okay, so how do we even begin to decipher those messages? Is there a Jungian dream dictionary out there somewhere?
I wish. No, it's not quite that simple. Jung believed that dream interpretation is a very personal process. It's about understanding how the symbols in our dreams relate to our own experiences, our own psychological makeup.
So if I dream about, say, flying through a giant bowl of spaghetti, that might mean something completely different for me than it would for you.
Precisely. For you, flying might symbolize a sense of freedom, maybe escaping limitations. The spaghetti, it could represent feeling entangled or overwhelmed. But for someone else, those same symbols, they might have totally different associations.
So it's not about finding a universal meaning, but more about how it resonates with us personally.
Exactly. It's about paying attention to the emotions the dream evokes, exploring the personal associations we have with those symbols, and trying to understand what our unconscious is trying to tell us.
It sounds like it takes a lot of self-reflection, maybe even journaling.
Absolutely. Keeping a dream journal is a great way to start working with your dreams. Write those images down as soon as you wake up, even if they don't make sense. Over time, you might start to see patterns, recurring symbols, themes, and those can offer real insights into your waking life.
So even those weird, nonsensical dreams, they could be trying to tell us something.
They could be. Jung believed that every dream has a purpose, even if we don't get it right away. He often said that the unconscious is always trying to compensate for our conscious attitudes and behaviors. So if we're ignoring something important in our waking life, our dreams might try to bring it to our attention.
So it's like our unconscious is always working in the background, trying to help us find that balance and wholeness.
That's a great way to put it. And that's why Jung believed that paying attention to our dreams can be so powerful for self-discovery and for growth.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these concepts, the shadow, the collective unconscious, dreams, how they all tie together in Jung's vision. But I imagine it can be quite a journey to put all this into practice.
It is, but the rewards are huge. Jung believed that doing this inner work, exploring those depths, that can lead to a much more fulfilling life. It can help us become more aware, more compassionate, and ultimately more connected to ourselves and to the world around us.
That's pretty inspiring. But where do we even begin? What are some practical steps, things we can do to start exploring these Jungian concepts in our own lives?
Well, one of the most accessible ways is self-reflection.
Self-reflection. You mean just like sitting quietly and thinking?
It can be that simple. Just taking a few moments each day to observe your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors, without judgment. You might try journaling or meditation or even creative activities like art or writing. The key is to create space for your unconscious to speak.
So just creating that space for quiet reflection. That makes sense. But what if those quiet moments, what if they bring up some difficult stuff, like some tough emotions or patterns that are hard to deal with?
Well, that's where therapy can be really helpful, especially if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed by those shadow elements we were talking about. A therapist trained in Jungian psychology, they can provide a really safe and supportive space for exploring those complex inner landscapes.
So it's like having a guide for that inner adventure.
Exactly. A therapist can help you make sense of those dreams, work through those tough emotions, and ultimately, integrate all those different parts of yourself.
Okay, so therapy, self-reflection, dream work. We've got a pretty full toolbox now. Anything else? Any other tools we should know about?
Well, Jung also talked about the importance of creative expression. He really believed that art, writing, music, dance, any form of creativity really could help us tap into that unconscious, give voice to those hidden parts of ourselves.
So it's not just about, thinking and analyzing, but also about expressing ourselves.
Exactly. Creative expression can be a really powerful way to connect with our inner world, to work through difficult things, and even, access those universal archetypes that reside in the collective unconscious.
I like that. It's like our creativity can be a bridge between our conscious and unconscious minds.
It can. And it's a bridge that can lead to greater self-awareness, even healing, and just personal growth.
It's amazing how relevant Jung still feels today. I mean, in a world that's so focused on, on achievement, on fitting in, his ideas about inner work and self-discovery, they feel more important than ever.
I agree. In a world that's constantly bombarding us with information and pressure, Jung's message is such a good reminder to slow down, to turn inward, and just listen to that inner wisdom.
Yeah, like he's giving us permission to embrace all those parts of ourselves, our uniqueness, the messy parts, the shadows and all.
It is, and it's a message that can really empower us to live more authentically, more creatively, and ultimately more connected to something larger than ourselves.
Well, I don't know about you, but after this deep dive into Jung, I'm feeling pretty inspired to explore my own inner world a little more. Maybe dust off that old dream journal, pick up a paintbrush, or maybe just spend some time in a quiet reflection.
Those are all great ways to start. And remember, the journey of individuation, it's a lifelong thing. There's no rush, no finish line. It's about taking those small steps, paying attention, and just trusting the process.
It's a good reminder that the most important discoveries, they often come from within. So, to our listener, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. We have a feeling Jung would be proud.